Hi. One of my viewers, Proud Heel Underfoot, was asking about preparing for a solo tabletop RPG session. This was on my video where I talked about how I prepare for a traditional or conventional RPG session when you play with other people. But what about this solo session? So this video is about how I prepare, my personal objectives, perspective, methodology when it comes to preparing for a tabletop RPG where it's just you as both the player character and the game master. I think it is easier to prepare for solo sessions, obviously, because when you have someone else, the human element, the other mind or minds that have their own pace, their own objectives, their own methods when it comes to playing tabletop RPGs, as player characters, they will surprise you. They will come up with all sorts of unplanned circumstances, and you need to adapt to those. You need to plan ahead in order to deal with those situations, those circumstances. But when it comes to solo, it's just you with an artificial intelligence simulated or generated by some sort of emulator. It's more about emulation. Tables, oracles. Depending on the RPG that you are running, there are some solo RPGs out there that are pretty much set up for the solo experience. In fact, in about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to be reviewing a solo RPG on the Cthulhu Mythos side. It's very interesting. But moving on from that, you need to figure out when it comes to what you feel comfortable with in terms of pacing and the preparation itself and the complexity or details. Are you a player that puts great emphasis on the flow of play, uninterrupted flow of play? If so, your preparation, the way that you prepare for a solo session is going to be quite different from someone that doesn't mind to pause the game every now and then in order to look for the best tools available. Let's talk about someone that puts great emphasis on the flow of play. If you are not too concerned about the most minute, precise details, you only need a very simple thing. Perhaps the TriCube Tales Game Master emulator, which is free. I'm going to put the links to some emulators in the description below. It's pretty much free. The description of the website on DriveThruRPG, it tells you if you want to obtain this for free, just click on the preview section, I think. But you can also purchase it if you want to obtain it as cards. When it comes to the TriCube Tales Game Master emulator, that's everything that you need, unless you are looking for a lot of very precise, very in-depth details. So let's say I am running a horror session, like a mystery or detective sort of adventure or scenario, and you obtain the information that someone in the neighborhood knows about the mystery that you are investigating. As long as you roleplay, of course. If you don't know what tabletop role-playing games are actually, please check out the links in the description where I talk about how to actually roleplay, my beginner's guide to roleplay. This is not about asking questions to the game master because the game master doesn't exist in the game world. This is not about the game master telling you, what do you do? What do you plan to do? This is not a conversation. This is not telling a story about characters. This is about you living the lives of the fictional characters. This is not about acting. You are not acting, you are describing. If you want, you can insert some acting if you want, but it is not necessary. Okay, so moving on from that, I approach the front porch section of the house and knock on the door 3 times. Now the inner monologue kicks in. You ask yourself, as the character, is someone going to answer? Now you make your roll on your yes or no oracle. And depending on the situation, yes or no, someone answers, nobody answers. But some could be thinking, yes, they answer the door, but in which way? In what manner? Like I said with the Tricube Tales, you could also go into a monologue. Will they answer in a friendly way? Make your roll on the oracle. It's a no. It's hostile. Now you can continue with the roleplay. You hear this hoarse voice saying, "Visitors are not welcome." So now it's all about how you proceed, right? Maybe you decide to persuade the individual to let you in. "Please, you must let me in. It is a matter of great importance." Or maybe someone else decides to break into the house later on. Maybe you think that's an enemy. Perhaps you are investigating some sort of religion. And you decide that it's much better to sneak into the house. So you could say something like, "Sorry to bother you. I go behind the bushes and wait 30 minutes. Now I approach the side of the house and examine the windows to see if it is easy enough for me to break into the house." Now the inner monologue. "Is any of those windows open?" You make your roll in the oracle. Yes or no. And so you proceed. So you see, very easy. In the case that you are not looking for very minute, precise details, you only need a single thing. Your Game Master emulator of preference. The Mythic Game Master emulator, you want something a bit more robust. The second edition, of course. Or the Solo Adventuring Toolkit. The free Tricube Tales emulator that I just told you about. Remember, all of the links will be in the description. This works for either playing as a solo player character with an emulated game master, or you could also play as a game master with emulated player characters, determining their attitudes, their approaches, their thought processes, using your oracles, your random words generated through the tables, the oracles, etc. But what if you are someone that is looking for very precise details? You want your tables, your generators to tell you, for example, in the case of the response when knocking at the door, you could use the Solo Adventuring Toolkit or the more complete book when it comes to battle and social encounters, the Flex AI emulator, I think. No, Flex AI guidebook. Because in that book you have all sorts of tactics and strategies, artificial intelligence generated tactics and strategies based on the wounds that the character has taken, the circumstances when it comes to social encounters, based on if it's a stranger that you encounter on the street, if it's a character that you know about that character, you are an acquaintance, that is going to modify the response. So maybe you decide to use the Solo Adventuring Toolkit or the Flex AI guidebook to generate the result when you knock on the door, to see if the answer is agreeable, pleasant, hostile, indifferent. And there are many other publishers. Ken Wickham, he goes too much in depth in my opinion. If you're looking for great depth, he has tables for pretty much anything concerning solo, anything that you can imagine. Absolutely anything. It's insane. The levels of it almost looks like a mental condition. The way that he approaches in-depth solo elements or factors, it is insane. But because of that, it is very useful. So in that case, if you're looking for those details, perhaps before the session, if you want the flow or the pace to be consistent, you prepare many things beforehand. You have perhaps the TriCube Tales emulator, and you also have the PDF or the printed sheets of this table that concerns social responses. You have this other table to determine the colors and shapes of objects. You have these other tables to determine the smell and sounds and sights of different sites, structures, buildings. You can go as in-depth as you want. But if you want to go that style or way or method, I would highly recommend that you keep all of your files or your sheets in a single place, so that way you won't have to pull them out or open them every time you are running your solo session. Imagine, oh, now I need to open this file, now I need to open this other file, I need to know. Keep them all in a single file or whatever. Or if you have them printed, keep them all in a box or in a drawer, and that way you can pull them out immediately. But if you don't mind interrupting the pace of the game, as long as you roleplay, you could also pause. Maybe you are playing the situation that I mentioned, and when you knock on the door, you suddenly think, oh, I just purchased these tables of responses when you knock on someone's door. Now you go to the files and you open oh, here it is, the PDF. And then it's ready, you make your rolls. Oh, it's this response, and you continue. Maybe it's actually a friendly response, and you open the door. The individual lets you in, but what's the physical appearance of the individual? Now you open your file. Oh, here it is, the PDF for determining the physical aspect of an individual. When it comes to Ken Wickham's materials, there is another really good one that contains, it's a pretty robust collection, so you don't need to open many things at once. I highly recommend it. I forget the name. The Solo Play with an R. Instead of solo, it's Solo. Solo Play basic generator or something. I'm going to put a link in the description. That's also a great resource to have. So overall, it's all about what you are looking for. Maybe when you interrupted your session, now you decide that you want to use those tables, that oracle, that emulator from now on. So you add them to the file or your, wherever you keep it, or if it's a physical thing, to the box, the drawer. Now you have everything in a single place. And you just double click on it, or you physically open the drawer or the box, and now you are prepared for the next session that you are going to run. But if you put great emphasis, like I said, on the flow of play, definitely think about what situations you will encounter in that session. As a general purpose, all-purpose setup, I would have the TriCube Tales for simple situations, and either the Solo Adventuring Toolkit or the Mythic Game Master Emulator 2nd edition, and the Flex AI Guidebook. Those are the only things you would need if you want to tackle various details and levels of complexity. But if you just want a simple tool or toolkit, just use the TriCube Tales emulator, everything that you need, the oracles of yes or no, the different words to come up with ideas, concepts, it's all there. So I hope this video was useful, perhaps entertaining. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. It's all about the flow, the pace, and how in-depth you want the details to be. Remember to check the links in the description. So as always, thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. And remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you, and see you later.